So let's start.
Here we go.
Okay,
Hello,
great.
everybody.
Hello.
It's
Today
Disney. We're on the
we
Disney
have
cruise. Come on, guys.
yes, there you go. We definitely we have to be like we are on a ship because
Yeah.
Richard and I we know
Oh,
each
Bruce.
other. Oh, you see, he got nervous, Bruce. What did you do?
No, I didn't get nervous. I saw Bruce's flag in the background. I thought I'll reciprocate.
You have your flag.
I'll reciprocate.
Very
Oh.
good.
Next time I'm gonna by the end of this session I'm gonna get mine. Mine Brazilian is this huge. You guys are little. Vladimir, do you have British flag by the way? No, you don't have it. All right, Richard, let's start. So welcome everyone. Today it's a special for me because it's been more than 20 years since I met Richard, and we haven't had the chance to see each other in person again. I've been living in Europe for a while. He was here in Europe, but now he's back in South Africa, native country. That's where he belongs, and that's where he finds for himself the best place to be. I think one of the first questions that we could ask him is about the time. Is it like in Brazil, Richard, like normal and okay to be late when you have meetings professionally and also like family gatherings or with friends?
The truth about that, it's province related, depending on where you come from. Like in the town of Johannesburg, for instance, which they call Gauteng now, it is not acceptable to be late. But where I come from, Cape Town, it's fashionable to become late for meetings.
Fashionable.
Yeah, it's very fashionable to be late.
Yes, I'm 5 minutes late. Hey, guys, look at me. Here I am.
Bruce has got it. It's you make an entrance.
And it's totally fine to be 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Not in business. For socials, yes, but for business, no. It's frowned upon. Yeah.
Would the Brazilians say, like the Brazilians, would they say that it's okay also to be a little bit late, like 5 to 15 minutes late on a business meeting? What do you guys say? Is it okay?
Not on a business meeting, I guess. On a social meeting, it's totally normal, but business, no.
Okay. All right, so let's start with some questions. Does anyone has a question for Richard?
Hello.
I'm
here. So I would like a question about the dialects spoken in South Africa, right? So I heard about that that they speak more than a language. So tell us about that.
That's an actually important question because we're one of the few countries that has 11 languages. I don't know all of them. I speak English. I speak Afrikaans, which is a dialect taken from the Dutch. And I understand the two native languages, which are isiZulu and Xhosa. That's the native languages, but there's 11. I wouldn't be able to name all of them, to be very honest. And they're actually in our national anthem, believe it or not. It's sung in our national anthem. So it's quite a unique country. And the history around it is that its languages have all extended from Africa all the way through. And then obviously we were colonized with the Dutch and colonized with the British. So it's quite a unique setup, I must say.
Fantastic. Richard, what about Afrikaans? If you speak Afrikaans with Simone, can she understand you or vice versa?
Strangely enough, when we were on the cruise liner, I had a very good friend of mine. His name was Sander Cornelissen, and he was Dutch, Netherlands, directly from the Netherlands. The dialect does differ, however, very similar. For instance, I could say to Simone, Goeiemorgen, gaan dit goed? And she would understand exactly what I'm saying.
Exactly.
What did you say?
How are
Good
you?
morning.
How are you?
Yeah.
How are you?
How are you?
Okay, common language like bom dia, como vai.
I think you can say like Afrikaans and Dutch. it can be compared to American and British or Portuguese and Brazilian. You can understand each other. I've heard that the Afrikaans is more limited though. They don't have all the vocabulary that we have in Dutch.
No, it's
And-
not. No, it's not. You're correct. It was created. It was a language that's created from Dutch. So it's not directly related. And actually, if you listen to the Flemish, it sounds more Flemish than it does Dutch, to be very honest with you.
Yeah, because I live in the Flemish area, and I think indeed the Afrikaans can be either compared to Flemish than to Dutch. However, Richard, please tell us how it was for you at school. Which language did you get officially at school? It was English or?
English was my first language because,
At school,
as I
then.
explained, yes, yeah. I came from the province of Natal, which they called Port Natal, which was colonized with the English. So our first language, or the province's first language, is English. Afrikaans was always a second language that was taught in all schools. It had to be. It was a requirement. So my Afrikaans wasn't that great in school until I moved towards the provinces that tend to speak a lot more Afrikaans, which is the Western Cape that I'm in now, and more rural country provinces.
Did you move with a family or for studies?
No, I moved for studies. The big hotel schools that I went to happened to be in the Western Cape or Johannesburg. They're in the bigger metros. So I had to move for studies.
Anyone else? Questions? I think Bruce, he raised his hands. Bruce, do you have a question?
Yes, I just wanted to know if you had brothers and sisters.
Yes, I do, Bruce. A lot, all older than me, luckily. So I was bullied a lot.
Oh,
Hey, I got such a good sense of humor. No, I'm teasing. Yes, I do. One of my eldest brother was actually, I don't know if anybody watches rugby or understands rugby. He was the president of South African rugby for 10 years.
Wow.
oh,
Yeah. O'Regan Hoskins was the president of SA Rugby for 10 years. And then we were a family of 9 in total. So my
That's a
parents
big
were very
family.
bored.
And
Yeah.
everybody stayed in South Africa? Like you were on the Disney tour, right?
I was in Crystal Cruises.
Crystal
We
Cruise.
did Crystal.
Okay.
Yeah, Crystal. Yeah, no, everybody stayed in South Africa. They all remained open businesses, got families. Families have families. So it's we've stayed true to the country.
But you've traveled a lot.
I've traveled a lot. Lived in Europe for a while. Lived in Hungary for over a year.
Why?
Moved around. I'd met a young lady on the cruise liner, and she came to stay with me, and then I decided, well, I'll stay with her, and then we ended up getting married. And that lasted for about,
congratulations.
yeah, it's long over though. It's no longer, but it was a good relationship for 7 years, I must admit.
Where about in Hungary?
Uh, not in Buda, in Pest.
Okay.
So, geez, I forgot the name of the place. I
Oh, no.
remember where Uncle lived. It was called Sharoshpatag, which I remember very well, which was very country. That I remember very well. But it was,
Did you get to learn a little bit of Hungary? Because you cannot relate anything to that language. It's so complicated.
it is. I learned some of the words to get by. Like, things like nem, igen, yes, no, obviously all the swear words. You always get to learn the swear words. In any language, tends to be the first.
okay. But after 7 years being with her, you're not able to, let's say, get an office job or get really a corporate job because it was not good enough?
It's in Hungary.
Yeah.
It's exactly what was mentioned now. Language is extremely difficult in Hungary. Extremely difficult to get by. Certain parts of Hungary, nobody speaks English at all. If you go to Buda, you will. City center, everybody speaks English. Once you get towards the rural and the towns, under the river, as I call it,
I had
very difficult.
I had a very hard time in Budapest because I need to get from Budapest to Kiskunhalas, where my friend Dora, do you remember Dora Simone? Dora Pastor? She Hungarian that she used to work with us. So I went there to visit her. And then I was in the train station to buy the tickets. And then I tried to explain to the lady that I want to go to Kiskunhalas. And she could understand me properly. And then I tried to speak slowly, and that the people behind me, they could also not speak English. A lady from very down to the queue, she came and helped us. And then they gave me the ticket with just numbers on it. And I said, okay, is this the ticket? It looks like that very old, when you go to the bakery in the old days, and that they have the thing with lots of numbers, you know? That was it. And there was no platform, nothing. And I say, okay, is this my ticket? And then she explained to me, yes, this is your ticket. So that there is the number of kilometers that your train is gonna go. Okay, what is the platform? And then she explained to me, luckily, because otherwise I would be in trouble.
But Richard, did you make some friends that you could speak English then there, or?
Luckily, a lot of the people that when I was living there, that we got to meet, happened to be English speaking. Well, new English, some of it. We find that the modern communities, the younger Hungarians tend to want to speak English, but the older generation refuse. It's a bit like Italy, to be honest with you. Italy is pretty much the same. You find the younger generation are very fluent in English, and then you go to the older generation and not many of them speak English at all. But a very beautiful country, very difficult if you can't speak Hungarian.
Okay, Lais or Sarah, would you like to ask some questions to Richard, maybe?
I'd like to come back to this thing of languages. I think it's very interesting that you guys have 11 official languages. And I don't know, I have no idea how this works. Like when you are at the street, I know in different places, I don't know how it is divided, like in states or I don't know. In different places, they have their dialects, but English is what bonds people together, I guess. Do you listen more to English at the street? How does it work, this mix of languages?
It's interesting. English is it is the main dialect in the country. It's English or Afrikaans, because they were the predominantly spoken languages throughout the country. Interesting question is, we are split up into provinces because we're not under any federal law. So America would have states. We don't have that. So we have borders, but they're open, and we have provinces. We find that different provinces speak more English than other provinces. Like, for instance, Cape Town, which falls under the Western Cape province, it's predominantly, Afrikaans is predominantly the main language here. And that was because of Jan van Riebeeck landed on the Cape, who was Dutch. So Afrikaans, you find, is predominantly spoken in the Western Cape. Where I was born, in Natal, which is Durban, Pietermaritzburg, it's a different province of Natal, English is your main dialect. It is predominantly English. In fact, Afrikaans is frowned upon. A lot of people don't even understand what you're saying.
That's curious. Oh.
Yeah.
And
it's the same with, sorry.
Yeah, tell me.
The same with the native languages. Where I come from, Zulu is predominantly spoken in Natal. But moving towards the Eastern Cape and Western Cape, Xhosa is spoken in these areas. And it's a totally different language, similar to Dutch and Afrikaans, but words' meanings are totally different. Totally different.
Okay, yeah. And what about tourism? I think there are a lot of tourists in South Africa in general, and is it common to see other people there, to see tourists?
Very common. October month, I know, coming from hospitality, because I'm a hotelier by trade. I don't not in the hotels anymore, but October month tends to be European. We used to call it the European months. All the Europeans come down to get away from winter and come down to South Africa. And of course, the exchange rate is cheap. It's extremely cheap. It's also one of the few places you get to see wildlife running wild, not in cages. So it is quite an experience, South Africa. Sadly, we do have crime problems. We do. It's across the country. However, I must admit, where I am in the Western Cape is probably one of the safer places to be in. And when I say crime, I don't want to paint the picture that I can't walk out my front door. I can. I can walk the streets still. I can still walk, but it's petty crime. It's cell phone theft. It's car breaking, smash and grab. It's, Also, like any city, you're going to stay away from certain areas. Stay away from them. Yeah.
Yeah, so similar to Brazil, we have these problems as well. Yeah. Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Sarah would like to ask a question.
I will wait a little.
Okay, Richard, would you like to tell us a little bit about race? Are you of mixed race by any chance?
Correct. Yeah, I am of mixed. Yeah. Well, it's a family descendant thing. You have what we call, and I know the Americans hate this because of the lovely lady that won a Grammy. Her name was Tyler. I don't know if anybody knows her from South Africa. And she said she's colored. And a lot of the Americans frowned upon that because they said you can't say that word. However, in South Africa, all mixed race people are known as colored. So we have a black, which is the native of South Africa or Africa. And then we have whites, which are obviously of European descent and mixed, either from German, Dutch, you name it, Italian. And then you have colored, which is either mixed between black, European, or Malaysian, Asian becomes colored. Okay, and then we have our Asian or Indian people, and predominantly from Natal. So we got 4 basic races in the country. So I'm known as mixed race. So a lot of my family came from the UK. They were English, white, and originated from a little island called Saint Helena, just off our coast, which is still a British island. And that's where my great-grandfather was serving in the British Army. And that's how it all started. So he was white. He came across South Africa. My great-grandmother was actually non-white. And that's how the story started. So we got classified under the apartheid era in South Africa as colored and non-white. So it was
What's the name of the islands that you said in England? I couldn't get it that.
Saint Helena. The Saint Helena Islands?
Okay.
Correct, yeah. A lot of it's still a British island. It still has under British rule.
Okay, I'm looking here in the map because when I was speaking, I'm kind of is that close to where? To Guernsey?
Correct, yeah. It's very tiny. It's a small little island.
Okay.
In fact, they've just recently put an airport there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think Bruce was sharing the South Africa map. Can you tell us exactly? So you are from the West Coast? Is that how I can see it?
Correct. Are we on the West Coast? That's right on the tip. That's Cape Town.
Yeah.
That's
right.
all the western side of Africa, yeah, of South Africa.
Okay. And where were you born, you said?
I was born on the North Coast. So you got to go towards Durban. You got South Africa, you go straight down to the bottom, and you'll look for Durban, Pietermaritzburg. There we go. And that's where I was born. So it's quite a distance away from where I originate.
Where is Johannesburg?
Johannesburg is smack bang center. That city, if you look where the South Africa is on the map, Quebec is Port Elizabeth. That was also English port. But from Port Elizabeth, you go straight up and you'll see Johannesburg.
Oh, up here, yes.
It's all inland, yeah.
Oh, that's far.
Correct. Far. That's why the crime rate spirals. Johannesburg is closer to all the African borders. If you noticed, you've got all the African borders all the way through. So it's the influx. Everybody that comes in usually comes in through Johannesburg.
And what is that? Lesotho? Why
Lesotho-
is yeah?
Lesotho is an independent country. They're a country all on their own, smack bang in the middle of Africa.
What? I didn't know that.
Correct.
That's what I noticed. It's really weird
Correct.
to see something like that. So
Smack back, they're independent country. They have their own laws. They have their own president. Everything.
it's the same
That's
thing
crazy.
with West Watini. West Watini is the same. It's a
Where's
country as well.
Eswatini.
Windhoek
Eswatini.
is
Okay.
Watini.
Yeah. Is it a country as
Eswatini.
well?
No, it's not.
Oh,
No, it's not. But they have got semi-independence.
my
I know it's
Can you-
crazy.
can you
It
re-
is
can you-
absolutely crazy.
Can you relate to the Lesotho? Do they think that they are superior or what? I don't know. It's so weird
No.
to see
No.
to see
It's
a country within a country, basically.
yeah.
it's because of their royalty. There's still hierarchy and there's monarchy. They still have a monarchy. So they still have a king. They still have all that. So they're entitled to have their own land and have their own rule, which wouldn't work in the Greater Africa or the Greater Southern Africa, because there is a Zulu king and there is a Xhosa king as well. Hence the reason why the Zulu, which is the north coast where I come from, is totally different, but they can't get independence because they're all classified as South African. Whereas in Lesotho, they're not classified as South African. They classified as Lesotho, as Lesothans.
Wow, I didn't
nations.
know that at all. Never
Yep.
heard about this. And
Yeah.
how long has it been? Like they are independent?
It's
50
just been from
years, 100 years?
yeah, no, longer than that. It's over 100 years. It's over
Wow.
100. Yeah.
Richard, is there a conflict because of that? How is
No.
that? I mean, no?
Not at all. Not at all. Our government actually relies strongly on them because they have a very, very big water source from the highlands, from their mountains there. So we actually tap into their water, okay, and they tap into our electricity when we have it, when there's no load shedding, as they call it lately. So we have it's a symbiotic relationship going on between the two countries.
Wow.
Mm. That's
It's
really
so-
weird.
So
That's
interesting. So interesting.
because you see, as Vladimir said, it's a country inside a country, and they have like usually you'd say, okay, let's choose the coast because we're gonna have some more business happening, a port or something, but they're just in the
But that's
middle, like almost in the middle, really
that's
isolated.
but that's where the relationship comes in, because they need our ports. So everything that comes
Need
by
their
sea
water.
needs to be correct. Yeah. So
Mm.
and we have to keep it. But it's a beautiful place. I must admit, if you ever get a chance to visit, it's stunning.
And that is English, their mother tongue, or
English is their mother tongue, okay, but of course the Lesotho language as well. Don't ask me what it is. I don't know if it's Seswati but it is. They have their own dialect as well, but still very, very rural, very rural.
Richard, there is Nando's very popular in UK. Let's talk about food. There is Nando's, which is a very popular in UK. Basically, Nando's, it comes from a Portuguese family who was based in South Africa, and that they basically they opened that chicken place restaurant in South Africa. I don't know which city. So they mixed their Portuguese roots with the South African food, and then it was a
Correct.
huge success.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you know Nando's, but then in UK, because I used to live in UK for several years, it opened. It's everywhere. Simone, when you go to the UK, you have to go to Nando's. It's the most amazing chicken ever that you're gonna eat in your life. It's just amazing. So do you know?
You're correct. Yes, very, very. I actually know when it opened. It opened in the mid-90s. I still remember the first one opening in my province. And you're correct. Everybody said they mustn't. Yeah, they've taken the Portuguese influence of the spices and the herbs, and Portuguese cooking. Everybody knows it's rich with herbs, and and they've taken the South African method of grilling it. We call it, I know the Americans and the Australians call it barbecuing. We call it braai, because we actually use proper wood and certain types of wood to actually light the fire and get our meats or the protein cooked on. And it gives the meat a different flavor. That's exactly what they've done with Nando's. And it's amazing. Their chicken is it's amazing. Yeah, you're right.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. I'm gonna put the link here in the chat. The ones that interested to check out on Nando's later. But when you go to UK or Europe, yeah,
We don't
have
have
the
Nando's
opportunity.
here. Never heard about it.
Yeah. Maybe you're gonna find one as opening.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's so it's amazing. I mean, it's like chicken. Okay, what is chicken? Whatever, chicken. But the way that they do, it's out of this world. When my brother came to visit me in UK, he was. I said, "Oh, I'm gonna take you to Nando's to eat chicken." Okay, he loved it. I mean, it's out of this world. It's so nice. It's wet. It's wonderful.
So, Richard, you can compare this barbecue in South Africa with Brazil or the UK, the United States, because it's something that you always outside in the summer or something like that. It's really
very difficult. And Bruce can correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I spent a little bit of time in the States. Well, we did. Everybody on the ship spent some time in the States because it was our main ports that we all went to. And the Americans that we all associated with enjoyed barbecues, but off gas grills. Very seldom would they light a fire and use that method. So that's what I relate to. Well, what I think of as a barbecue. Whereas in South Africa, it's such a tradition. I mean, we even have a national day that we call Braai Day.
How do you spell that word, braai?
How do you write? Spell it.
B-R-A-A-I.
Wait.
Braai.
B-R-A-A-I?
I, yeah, as in braai.
Wow.
That's it, yeah.
Interesting.
Leandro is also asking, what are the common outdoor activities or hobbies that people engage in? So for sure, braai, for sure.
Yeah.
We get together
And of
to
course,
go braai. And what else?
like obviously the Brazilians enjoy their football or soccer. It's a big sport. Yeah, it's rugby. Rugby is a massive sport. Yeah. That's the oblong shaped ball, a bit like American football, just without all the protection.
Oh, that's rough.
15 men against 15 men, and it's yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a full contact sport. It's a pretty much like American. In fact, a lot of our players end up going to go play in the NFL. They go play in the NFL, and lots of times as a quarterback, because of the kicking skills needed in rugby. And quarterback's going to be a good kicker, and also going to be very quick. So yeah, if you look it up, you'll see a lot of South Africans have played for major league NFL teams.
I didn't
So
know
yeah,
that.
yeah. And then of course we got cricket, which we got from the English. It's the other sport. Well, rugby is also from the English, so we got cricket as well. And a bit like American.
I don't think it's that popular, right, guys? Cricket? Do you know what he's talking about, girls? Cricket?
Yeah, I've heard about it, but it's not very common here. We have our own version though. We have bats. I don't know if you know it, but it's a version of cricket.
Cricket, yeah.
Yeah.
But Brazil has a sevens rugby team. Do you know that?
No. I didn't know that.
They actually play sevens. They play 7-a-side rugby. They got they got a men and women's team.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow!
And the kids, yes, the kids start playing it at school. People play rugby. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much like New Zealand and Australia. It's actually the schools are the training ground for the bigger teams.
And then they get scholarships, and then they go to the bigger teams, and then they can make a career out of it. Okay.
Yeah. And it is big because, I mean, France, there's a big academy in France. You've got, I mean, not as much, not Germany at the moment. They do have teams, though. but Europe is starting to pick up a lot in the rugby. The UK is full of it. The French, huge. So it's starting. Italy, not that big at the moment, but it's starting to grow more and more.
Well,
So
Richard,
it's
do you
getting
have
big.
like championships once a year, or how does it work then?
Well,
Of
currently we used to have a championship called Super Rugby, where South African teams would go to a competition against South African teams, New Zealand teams, Australia, and then they've included Argentina. Argentina would also play. Yeah, Argentina's got one of the oldest rugby unions in the world, strangely enough. So,
Didn't know that.
and they're very good at it. Not just good soccer players, they're very good rugby players. But now we've left the Super Rugby, which is the New Zealand and Australia, and we've joined Europe. So we're now playing in the English competitions. So the South Africans are now, because it's actually easier for us to fly to England than it is to New Zealand and Australia. It's too far.
Yeah, that's true.
So now we're in the Northern Hemisphere competition, versing all the English teams, as well as joined a thing called the European League, which involves Italy, France as well. So we've joined all those leagues instead of just playing New Zealand and Australia. So it's become
And
big.
is South Africa one of the best, or they are worse than France or Italy?
Oh, no. Well, remember we won the World Cup 4 times. It's the only country in the world that's won the World Cup, the Rugby World Cup 4 times.
Okay.
So yeah, we've got a good, how can I say, training ground in South Africa for good players.
Okay, Richard, let's go back to tourism, hospitality. That's also your major, where you come from. That's also how we met. Because Bruce was asking about resorts, and I remember that my husband, he used to have a South African girlfriend, and he went to Johannesburg, and I think in Cape Town as well. And he told me back in the 90s, there was a resort which had 6 stars. Is that correct?
Absolutely correct. It was actually it belonged to Saul Kersner. Saul Kersner, if you Google him, he's a very well-known South African entrepreneur, but a hotelier. He started all those resorts that were
6 stars.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. It was created by the American Council, Hospitality Council at the time. And to have that in Africa was a huge accolade because his business partners and funders were actually,
But they have like in different cities,
No.
yeah, I see in the coast like 6 stars resorts.
No, they were because he couldn't build hotels in South Africa. He built them which was then known as Botswana. It was a different province, a different country at the time. But when everything changed, South Africa actually took over the country. Okay, because the country was, so he had built it externally outside South Africa, so he didn't need all the South African laws and rules okay, but that was a very long time ago. There's not one of those at the moment. It's pretty much they're all on the even playing field. But I know there was an interesting question about a resort. We have got very, very good ones. One of them well known is the Kruger National Park.
Located.
Yeah.
Where?
Kruger National Park is just outside Johannesburg. It's about a 6-7 hour drive outside Johannesburg. It's all open. I mean, we're talking about thousands and thousands of hectares of open veld or fields with wild animals and resorts. There's about 12 resorts in total in various locations. That's how big the property, how big that land actually is. And it's a very famous tourist attraction. Very famous. Because you get to see the big 5 there, which is your buffalo, elephant, lion, rhino, which they call the big 5. It's flooded with tourism every year.
Well, Bruce, you can go ahead and ask a question about the BRICS.
Oh, yes. And I know that South Africa is part of BRICS. And so to me, it seems like South Africa is such a small nation. But evidently, it's not that way. And so I just wondered, what are your exports and industries that allows allows South Africa to be included in BRICS?
It has become a very contentious topic or conversation. I must admit, Bruce. We have our export has been very minimal recently under the government we currently have. I'll be honest. I'm going to call a spade a spade. The current government is not good. South Africans are struggling. The poverty line has dropped even further. Well, increased, sorry, even further. So there's more people that are unemployed. Unemployment has hit a high. I was joking about it, but we have rolling blackouts, which they've called load shedding. So the lights get turned off. Yes, I promise you. Called load shedding. They've called it load shedding, but it's actually a rolling blackout. So you'll have power without power for about 6 hours in a day, in 2-hour intervals. Yes. And they've blamed everything from wet coal to not servicing the power stations and the current government's been in power for over 30 years and it's deteriorated. It hasn't improved. You obviously know the dark history of apartheid, which was wrong. Everybody agrees. It was black people were enslaved. They weren't given the rights to do what they needed to do. But our government currently at the moment is a black government. They run the country. And we don't care as a South African who runs the country, just as long as poverty doesn't happen, people are safe, the streets are safe. And the sad reality is that's deteriorated. It's deteriorated at an alarming rate. Quite scary.
Okay, because right now I know Lula, our president Lula, is talking about including other countries into the BRICS operation. And so just I thought about that, and I've always said to myself, why is South Africa included in this group, which are big groups? Like Brazil's a big country with a big population, China, India, Russia, they're big countries with big populations, and I'm thinking, why is South Africa included in this group? I don't know. So
you should remember, we got 61 million people in the country, and technology is one of the biggest.
61 million in Sao Paulo.
There you go. Yeah. So that's true. That's true. But our technology is huge. I mean, if you look at, I'll give you an example. I keep on forgetting his name. The guy that runs Tesla. He's South African.
Oh.
He's taken all his experience. Yeah, he's South African. Yes, he's from Pretoria. He's from Pretoria, South Africa, which is outside Johannesburg. He's South African. I mean, Mark Shuttleworth is another one I can mention. It's technology. There's huge technology coming out of the country. So that's another part of BRICS. Our export fisheries, a huge thing as well. There's a lot of things on our coastline that a lot of countries don't have. Just to name a few. But I know BRICS, we got involved with BRICS because of the technology more than anything else.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I would like to make a question. So in Brazil, we have very, I would say unique, but we have our festivity, like Carnival, right? So what about South Africa? There is something that unique there that you could share with us?
It's a very valid question and a very difficult one to answer because of the so many different cultures that live here. We've actually mimicked a few of the Brazilian festivals, like the Mardi Gras. We try and mimic some of that, but other than that, not really. There's not much that South Africa has that's a festival that is unique to South Africa. I don't know of one. I haven't seen one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Asking about that, the culture and everything, what is the predominant religion there?
In the Western Cape where I am, predominant religion is Islam.
Okay.
Islam is the predominant religion because most of the people, the immigrants from here, were from Malaysian descent. So you'll find it's a lot of Islam here. When you go down towards the coasts of Natal, inland towards Johannesburg, it's mainly Christianity. It's mainly Christianity, but the biggest Islamic religion is in the Western Cape.
Is that yours as well, Richard?
No,
you
I'm a Christian.
Christian?
Yeah, I was, yeah.
Is there much fights, religious fights, or people kind of respect each other?
It's obviously with the tensions that are going on at the moment in Israel and Palestine, it's caused fights, internal fights in every country, not only in South Africa. However, people actually live together. I'll give you an example. My daughter was raised, baptized, and christened as Christian. She has now converted to Islam because she had met a Muslim boy here, settled down, married him, and she's converted. So, yeah. So, and as a parent that's Christian, I've respected and I've told her as long as she's happy, doesn't you got to do that as long as she is happy, and they look after each other. That's the basis of it. So, to tell you the truth, not really. Everybody respects each other. I work with people with various religious differences. I manage a student accommodation with lots of students with different religious beliefs, which we try and keep out of the building, to be very honest with you. We say it's your belief, keep it there, and that's the way it stays peaceful.
Yeah, you just answered the second question of Bruce, which was, what's your occupation? Was that clear, Bruce, what he does for a living? Oh, can you deliberate a little bit on your occupation,
Yeah,
please?
sure. Let me start from the beginning. Bruce, I studied hospitality, hotel management in hotel school. Obviously did my stint on the cruise liners and met Simone. Then I moved on to, because I had studied hotel management, moved on to managing hotels. I did that for a while, but luckily moved out of that industry into what they call the contract cleaning industry just before COVID, and got my first job straight after contract cleaning in student accommodation. So what we do is we build, or the company that I would be employed by, build student accommodation, which would be an apartment block, get it licensed to accommodate tertiary institutional students. And from there, we would market it, plan it, and then give safe and learning conducive accommodation to tertiary students. And that's what I do now. I manage a 563 bed student accommodation close to the University of Cape Town's medical campus. And it's challenging, rewarding, sometimes frustrating, but good industry, good business in not only in South Africa, across the world. It's a big demand for student accommodation, strangely enough.
Okay.
I think Leandra's questions goes straight to what you're explaining to us, and I think it's going to be easy for you to answer.
To plan, yeah.
Yeah, if someone is planning to visit or even to move to South Africa.
Yeah.
What's your advice then?
Leandra, and like you said as well, there's a lot of similarities between Brazil and South Africa. I can tell you that now. There's a lot of similarities. You see the poverty, you see the wealthy, you see it. South Africa is a good country to visit. Just make sure that you do your vetting and your due diligence when you book accommodation and when you book any travel agent through any travel agency. Check their ratings, check the Google reviews. There's a lot of fraud involved in this country. There is. They'll try and dupe you out as any money as possible. So make sure that you do your correct research, that the people that you're booking through are registered. Once you're in the country, stick to areas that are well known for low crime rates. For instance, Cape Town city center is well known for muggings if you walk around on your own, like any city center that I've been to. You got to be careful. You got to take precautions and make sure you don't do it. If you're hiring a car, make sure you stay away from certain areas and do not believe the GPS. I don't know if you're not so long ago, I'm sure Bruce, you heard about it. The American that strayed off, the GPS took him into an area which is predominantly a black township, and he stopped at an ATM to draw money and was shot in the face.
Wow.
Yeah, this
that's a
happened.
good ask, right? So
Yeah.
there is a place that we are like it's dangerous, like to be
Correct.
there, right?
Correct.
So
Yeah.
maybe the
It's not
GPS is gonna direct you to a place that's not very safe, right?
correct. And that's why I always say is the GPS is not your best route. It's always possibly to rather, if you're staying at a hotel, get concierge to map out an itinerary of where you want to go. Okay, in the areas, and it's rather have it pre-planned than relying on a GPS to take you to an area where you want to go. Because your concierge or your front desks in all the hotels would rather give you a straight route, the safest route, and that's the one to follow. I wouldn't stray off those routes. Some of the areas we don't even go into. I'll be very honest with you. I won't.
Okay,
I won't go into. Yeah.
So according to that, so there are kind of inequality between wealth and poverty, right? So
There is.
are there lands there as well in South Africa?
Sorry, is there?
Lands,
Slums.
yeah.
Ghettos.
Yeah, exactly. There is. We call them squatter camps, or well, South Africans now call them informal housing. They've given them a more appropriate name, but we call it squatting. When the land doesn't belong to you and you go sit up a tent shack, it's called squatting.
Yeah, squatting.
Squatting. Yeah.
How can you spell it?
SQUATTER.
Squatting.
Yeah, there we go. Squatters, squatting. Yeah.
I've never heard about that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we use that word in America too. It's like the
Yeah.
people that are in Brazil, and there's the traffic circle, and the people just put a tent there and start living, and then some of their friends come. It just becomes a little community.
And it's squatting. It becomes a squatter camp. And of course, it's frowned upon in the country because it's, like I said, they recognize it as informal settlements. And we're saying, but it's not an informal settlement because according to law, an informal settlement is still registered and zoned where you can actually build. It just hasn't been certified for housing development yet. That's what makes it informal. So implying that a squatter camp is an informal settlement, we have a huge dispute over.
How do you say this word?
What's that?
How do you say this word?
The informal settlement.
No, do you see the chat?
Let's have a look. Build.
See, in
Build.
build.
Bill.
Yeah.
Bold is good. Bold.
Yeah, we call it build or building. Yeah.
Bolding.
Bolding.
Balding.
Right.
Oh,
To build a building.
Living and learning, right? Live and learn.
Yeah. Or bold. Yeah. This is where the contention comes in between Americans and English-speaking people.
No,
it's
the
pronunciation.
word is this one here.
Water.
Water.
Yeah.
So and thing or ting.
It's tea.
So ting, right?
Hey, tea.
Give me some ting.
Would you like a cup of tea?
Yeah. That's very Cockney, cup of tea.
Yeah, so Africa are not very concerned to th sound, right? They're not very concerned about that.
That's exactly. And listen, I'll be honest with you. Some English can't speak English. I'll be very honest. There's a few English have no idea. If you watch soccer and you listen to some of the managers and some of the squads, you have no idea what he just said, and it was supposed to be English.
But I really like this variation of English, because they are not very strict to this th sound, right? That's required in the U.S. English.
Yeah,
So that's very interesting.
South Africa's also created their own dialect. I mean, like any country, we have slang. English, you derive your own slang out of it. I mean, Brazil, you'll have your dialect, but there'll be slang in Brazil as well that certain areas would understand. If I'm not mistaken, only you would understand it. Yeah,
For sure.
Yeah, you generated from a certain
Yeah.
area you come from, and that's your type of slang that you know that, and that's how you can tell you from where you're from. It's like we can say, listen, are you from that part of South Africa? Because there's a certain accent and there's a certain slang that
For
comes with
sure.
it.
And also
Yeah.
it comes with pride, right? Oh, I'm from
Correct.
the area and we speak like this or like that.
Yeah.
For sure. Maybe Lais would like to ask some more questions because we are running out of time.
Oh, I can't unmute myself. No, I'm okay now. Learned a lot of things today.
Yeah, but it's
That's
very,
most
it's very,
important.
okay, it's very particular to every like Caribbean countries. You know, it's quite of similar to the variation of English, right? Related to TH sound that I haven't realized it, because I really like to check like the differences between English, you know. So have you ever talked to Ghana, for example?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
think like
Yeah, I
there is
have.
a great differences?
There's a huge difference. You'll find that the English dialect or the English pronunciation from all the other African provinces or the African countries, our neighbors, is different. Like you get the from Ghana, for instance, you mentioned now the dialect or the English dialect is totally different. Obviously, because the languages are spoken there are different. We've a lot of Nigerians in South Africa that have come through. Let's just say there's a lot of Africans that have come through because South Africa's got a lot more. Uh, um, there's a lot more resources than Upper Africa. Upper Africa, I'll be honest with you, most of the places are not good to live in. It's still ruled by dictatorship. A lot of
Oh, really?
dictatorship that goes up there. Yes, there's a lot. So you find that a lot of the Africans come down here to South Africa for employment. And the reality of it, a lot of the Africans, Upper Africans, are highly intelligent people. You'll find that the intelligence compared, I'm not speaking badly of the South Africans, but
No,
I've
but
dealt
it's
with a lot.
different because they have the survival mode, right? They
Correct,
learn how to go
correct.
left, right, and they just find their way. I think, Richard, honestly, your English, it would be more, I mean, closer to British, and that's also for sure. From what we've learned today, it's clear that you are a colony. However, you have your own accent, which makes it really interesting and beautiful as well, right? Like for us, Brazilians learning English is the same. Here and there, you can hear when a Brazilian is speaking English. You know what I mean? Of course, you have to know them, us, so you can recognize it, of course. However, as you said, like all the other African countries coming to South Africa, as soon as you hear it, you can point to say, oh, this is Nigerian accent, this is Ghana's accent. And there you go. And that's really how it is in the world nowadays. Everybody's traveling, everybody's migrating, everybody's mixing. I mean, you
Yeah,
and I mean, most of the Brazilians as well, we come from mixed parents and
yeah,
we become more we become. And also nowadays with the languages and countries, like, you know, I was born in Brazil, but I've been living in Europe for so long. And here I also have friends from all over the world as well. And we are just trying to be humans, right? We are understanding the words differently and accepting each other is the key, right? Everybody's different and everybody's unique in their own way. Anyhow, Bruce is asking
Bruce.
when can
Yes,
we
yes,
see each other again? For
yes.
sure, I will be inviting you again to join us. And maybe next time you can be the one asking all the questions. I think we will be ready for you. So you get to know Brazil as well.
For
And
sure. Yeah.
who knows, someday you can go to Brazil and visit. You'll see all these people. They'll be with open arms waiting for
For
you to
sure.
visit.
For sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Will be. Yeah.
It
for
would be a
sure.
nice trip for
And
you to come here, Richard. You would enjoy it.
that's
No, no,
also
definitely.
something
Yeah.
the Brazilians are the best in the world for that. We are very friendly, and as soon as we trust someone, very quickly as well, you become a friend for life. And that's you what you are for me, that's for sure, and for them as well. So thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us and to give
Only a
us
pleasure.
this lesson, because for most of us, we had no idea about many things that you talked about. and
Yeah.
to really appreciate it, right, guys?
South Africa it's in my list. I really want to go.
You're more than welcome. You're more than welcome.
That's really
Thank you
nice.
so much.
I hope
Nice
I
meeting.
hope you have felt comfortable with us here. Thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. As a South African, we tend to blend in very easily.
Good.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Before you know,
Nice to meet you all.
feeling already.
It's absolutely, yeah. Thank you, everybody, and good meeting you all.
You too, Richard.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a
Bye bye.
fantastic
Thank
weekend.
you.
Thank
Bye-bye, everyone. You all have
Bye-bye.
a
Bye.